I want to start this video by saying that I don't dislike Starbomb. It's the opposite, actually. I used to be their #1 fan. Or still kind of am. I have the CDs and the beanie. They were always super high on my Spotify Wrapped, and I also ordered the signed LP of their latest album. I just never got it. Not that I was scammed or anything, but it just didn't arrive, and like 6 months later I got an email saying it got sent back to their warehouse. Though in hindsight, I'm kind of glad I didn't get it. But anyways, Starbomb is a comedy rap video game synth pop band made by Aaron Hansen, Dan Avidan aka Danny Sexbang, and Brian Welch from Korn, going by the alter ego Ninja Brian. If you don't know, Aaron got his start online on Newgrounds as Ego Raptor, making a name for himself and becoming one of the biggest Newgrounds creators with his animation Metal Gear Awesome. Dan and Brian created DSP together, NSP, which is also a comedy pop rock band, but instead of video games, they sing about sex. The only song I honestly really know from them is Everybody Shut Up, which is a song about, well, dick. Aaron and Dan also have a pretty underground gaming channel together called Game Grumps, which started off with Aaron and JonTron playing video games together until John left and Dan took his place, and I honestly never really watched them, which I guess is kind of weird because Starbomb is seen as like the Game Grumps video game band, but I was only a fan of Starbomb. Speaking of Starbomb, let's get right into the first album with the same name.
Let's go!
I Choose You to Die is the first song on the album, and as their first song ever, it's a pretty good introduction to show what Starbomb is for the most part. Ash Ketchum abuses his Pokemon, gets thrown in jail, then gets shot in his Pokeballs. This music video was made by Shancy Man, if I'm saying that right, and it's just one example of the insanely impressive Starbomb fan animations out there. Many of them made by either a single person or through collaborative projects. I Choose You to Die is a good song, but it was never really one of my favorites, though I do really like it because it led to one of the greatest videos ever created, at least in my opinion. For whatever reason, there is a rap-along version where it's just a bunch of big YouTubers singing the song. It's kind of like that Imagine video if it didn't suck absolute ass, with people like AVGN, Markiplier, who's wearing a wig for some reason, the Completionist, and Pro Jared. This is a re-upload though. Aaron sadly took the video off his channel. I wonder why, man. Why would he do that?
I can't speak such silly stuff. I can't blab such blibber blubber. My tongue isn't made of rubber. Mr. Ego Raptor, sir.
Princess Peach, won't you listen to my speech? I don't have any stars of invincibility.
Luigi confesses his love to Princess Peach, but keeps getting interrupted by Mario, who is just a horny bastard that wants to smash.
Now, I know that you've been hanking your Schrader.
Both of them constantly trying to one-up each other. Get it?
Gotta one-up it!
The song ending with Princess Peach choosing Toad because...
well, his whole body's shaped like a dick.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which is stupid because Luigi honestly looks way more like a penis here than Chode. While the song is really great and definitely in the top 3 of this album, the music video is probably the most iconic thing surrounding it. Aaron animated it himself and I really love his art style. It's so expressive and chaotic and full of personality. He did it behind the scenes in which he clearly does or had a lot of passion for it still. I mean, it was 8 years ago, but he's also needlessly shitting on it the entire time.
And you know, there were a ton of problems on this animation that I can see like right off the bat, but I actually hate the movement on this. Like he just sucks it in. There's no arc to his head. Ah, God, it looks horrible. What was I thinking? That looks horrible. But there's so much about that I hate.
This is peak, what do you mean?
Yeah, well, Mario like Yoshi and show you things you never see. I watch you down leg if you know what I mean. So suck it, Mario, you always do this shit.
So, apparently this song was performed in front of what I think is a high school theater class. Look, I love Starbomb, but this is one of the last songs you want to play, let alone perform in public. Probably right next to Nintendo Bohemian Rhapsody and like the beer song from Mike and Melissa. There's also a behind the scenes, and when they go on stage, it like cuts to the cameraman backstage filming himself, and his his reaction basically sums it up. This was almost 11 years ago, so these guys are probably like working and contributing to society right now, but wherever they are, I hope they're doing good because this is just so freaking epic. I thought Luigi's Ballad was their most popular song, but this actually is, having 8 million more streams on Spotify. Link goes on an adventure and meets the old guy from the first Zelda game who says it's dangerous to go alone, take this, hence the name of the song. But instead of getting a sword, Link constantly gets flashed. Yeah, I think the pattern is getting pretty clear. Starbomb often gets labeled as the band that raps about Mario and sex and dick and swears, and that's not entirely false, though that's really just the first album. Actually going back and looking at these songs closely, I was pretty surprised how much restraint they had on player select and the Triforce. Like, they could have so easily put a few innuendos in a song like Smash, for example, but I think they realized that they really needed to tone it back a notch. I get how people can find it more grating than others. I usually kind of tune it out, but it also depends on the song and how it's used, of course. One more thing I wanted to say about It's Dangerous to Go Alone is that the music video is animated by Studio Yada. They've actually done a lot of these, so when I first realized who they were, I thought it was absolutely insane. They've done work for some of the biggest names in the animation industry, like Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, which, you know, technically also is Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney, and just a lot of video game trailers and openings. Though the work I'm most familiar with of theirs is definitely OKKO and that Sonic Mania intro, but they've also worked on Amphibia and also Smiling Friends, which they actually played a massive part in the creation of, animating a lot of episodes, including the pilot. So I think it's safe to say that they're a really big deal in the animation industry. So how did Aaron get them for Starbomb? Well, Jake Gans, who is the founder of Studio Yada, did an AMA on Reddit where he basically said that he's been friends with Aaron for a long time. Pretty anticlimactic, I know. Yeah, I don't really have anything to say about the Mega Man song. Mega Man must defeat the Robot Master so he and his wife can make love again. I don't know, it's really stupid.
Are you planning to make more Starbomb animated or no?
I'll just say Corey's making one, and it's coming out really soon. It's amazing. It's like way better than mine.
Yeah, this was animated by Corey. Yeah, that Corey. And Aaron used to be pretty good friends with the Oni Plays crew back then. Of course, meeting through Newgrounds and all. He would often collaborate with them, mostly providing voice acting for cartoons they would make, like Zach's animation about Coney 2012.
You're all fucking stupid!
Corey also animated the Ego Rapture cartoon, which is about how Aaron Hansen is the second coming of Christ.
Did you know that I'm actually God?
I am God!
Oh, that's why they call him Ego Raptor. Also, there's a JoJo version for some fucking reason.
Nice!
Though in 2019, Aaron got in some drama with the YouTuber Senior Palo. Palo made an animation parody about those storytime YouTubers that were basically inescapable back then. It was generally just a funny and inoffensive video, even featuring the Amazing, who was one of the biggest storytime YouTubers at the time.
Holy Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor, that was pissed!
Aaron took great offense to it, where he was basically white knighting for the entire storytime community, which was probably due to him becoming close friends with the Odd Ones Out and Jane Animations and such, hosting an event called Scribble Showdown with them, which honestly seemed like a good time. Man, what I wouldn't give for an Ego Raptor cardboard cutout. But doing this, he also threw Newgrounds under the bus, which people really didn't like. One of these people being Corey, and he had some things to say to Aaron. Aaron had very obviously tried to distance himself from his edgy past and try to build a more brand-friendly image, which I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with doing that. It's more the moral grandstanding that's just really stupid. Of course, this is just an assumption, and it has been like 6 years, but from the looks of things, I don't think Corey and Aaron are really friends anymore, and I think that goes for the rest of his Newgrounds pals as well. But yeah, back to the actual song. Ryu and Ken have a rap battle. Their personality getting switched compared to how they are in Street Fighter. Ryu is usually calm and respectful, while in this song he's a hot-headed loudmouth. Ken is usually a hot-headed loudmouth, but in this song, yeah, you get the point. Of course, both being played up to their extremes. Ryu being super aggressive and unhinged, and Ken being a weak, wimpy loser. And it's one of the best Starbomb songs. Like, the music video is just so beautifully animated. Corey obviously put a lot of blood, sweat, and cum into this. Though the thing that I find most important and what makes this song so great is that it sounds like an actual Street Fighter song. You could put the instrumentals behind any kind of Street Fighter gameplay and it wouldn't feel out of place at all. And that really goes for almost all the songs on this album. They all have that video gamey 8-bit synth feel to them. It's what you expect a video game parody album to sound like, and as you'll see, that would not end up being the case for their later work. I haven't really explained what makes for a good Starbomb song in my eyes. It comes down to 3 things really. The first being that the song needs to have a good concept or story that takes advantage or is relevant to the game that they are parodying. Second being that it has amazing instrumentals, especially if it actually sounds like it could be or has the same vibe as the game. And the last thing, but this one is less important than the other two, that you have a personal connection or are somewhat familiar with the game the song is about. Of course, it doesn't have to tick all 3 boxes for the song to be good, but the best Starbomb songs usually do. Crashervania ticks all these boxes, and I, along with many other Starbomb fans, find this to be the best song on Self-Titled. It's basically a mashup of Castlevania and the Monster Mash. Dracula throws a party for all his monster friends, but Simon keeps crashing the party and killing everyone, because he feels left out because he didn't get invited. The back and forth between Aaron's Dracula and Dan's Simon is really great, and Aaron's Dracula voice is especially endearing and just very charming. I don't know, I feel like I'm not doing it justice explaining. I'm not a music reviewer or anything, just look at how amazing the live performance is.
If your heart is my weakness, I shall see you all slain! Later that night, we went back to my castle where we could dance in peace.
Also, what might be making me a little biased is that the music video is animated by Cos van de Pol. During the pandemic, I used to watch his art streams a lot. I have his makeshift plushies, and he just genuinely seems like a great guy. Check out Gnome Show, by the way, like, it's really good. It even has Brock Baker, the Yo Mama guy. The Book of Nook has really grown on me over the years. I used to not like it because around the same time that I was playing a lot of New Leaf and New Horizons was also around the same time where I would rediscover Starbomb, so I didn't want to see Tom Nook as some evil little bastard, I guess. The plot is really simple and kind of overdone, Tom Nook being an evil loan shark and all, but then again, I don't know what else you can really do in Animal Crossing. There's one thing about this song that has kind of turned into a mystery for me. My ears really suck and sometimes I completely mishear the lyrics. So I thought the lyrics, "You better recognize the Tanuki Tycoon and my thug-like gang of adorable goons," were actually saying, "You better recognize that Tanukis are cool and my thug-life gang of adorable goons." Like that Snoop Dogg meme.
Hey, what's good, Snoop Doggy Dog?
I got what's good, little nigga.
But this has turned into some kind of Yanni or Laurel situation where I have no idea which one it is and there's no real way of knowing. When you go on the Ego Raptor channel and go to the full album, the lyrics clearly say thug-like instead of thug-life. So the story ends there, right? But if you look at the lyrics on Spotify or on Genius, it says thug-life. Tell me in the comments which one you hear because I really just don't know anymore.
Sonic the Hedgehog, one of the greatest and most attractive characters ever thought up.
The relationship between Aaron and Sonic the Hedgehog is infamous to say the least. From my understanding, it basically comes down to Aaron not really being good at the Sonic games and talking about how much the Sonic games suck during his Sonic 06 Let's Play.
My question is, they've made good games like Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, which are...
No.
What?
Don't even say those games are good.
I like those
They're
games.
terrible.
I don't remember 2 as much, but 1 was good.
They're both awful.
No, they're not.
These Let's Plays would end up raking in a lot of views, so he kind of started LARPing as a Sonic hater, but also because it was really easy to rail on the Sonic fanbase back then, even if he didn't really hate the franchise. I mean, he made that animation in which Knuckles says the N-word, and he made this song, so there's still some kind of appreciation, seemingly. And the song's about Tails becoming a drug addict and becoming evil! Woo!
Here, honey, come down. Come down and give your lover a kiss.
Regretstroid's about Kraid wanting to get laid. One thing that just doesn't make sense about this song, or maybe it's more the music video, is that the lyrics are constantly about how hot Samus is and like talking about her chest and stuff. And her boobies were outstanding. And then you watch the music video and it just doesn't add up because they're just zooming into a flat piece of metal.
Ooh. Ooh.
This is not Zero Suit Samus, mind you. This is Samus in her power suit. So it's like objectifying Samus, but also not objectifying her at the same time. I mean, even Smosh understood this when they did their Smash Bros rap, but maybe I'm just missing the entire point. I mean, hell do I know.
She is such a bad bitch, though. I will fuck the shit out of that robot, man. I'm not even...
Kirby in Dreamland just sucks. Yeah, it's just so extremely crude and obnoxious to the point of it becoming hard to listen to. And this isn't a Book of Nook situation where it's actually pretty decent, but I'm just not seeing it because I'm biased. No, the song is just really bad. One of the things I dislike and what takes me out of it is that it's the only song on the album where they aren't singing from the perspective of a character. So it just feels like some weird self-insert fan fiction about Aaron and Dan wanting to get it on with Kirby. They kinda also played themselves in I Choose You to Die, but that was more of a retelling of events than really being a character in the story. The song is just stinky and it sucks, alright? The simple plot of Final Fantasy VII is the first simple plot of song, which is a recurring series of songs on every Starbomb album, where a character with a very complicated plot goes on a talk show where you're supposed to quickly summarize your plot, with the host's mental decline progressively getting worse and worse with each album. These are really great, but this is definitely my least favorite out of the trilogy. The host, who's just Dan, I don't think he really has a canon name, is also not really as good here as in the later ones. It's just mostly Cloud arguing with a lot of retro characters, who eventually does get killed by Dig Dug by getting a hose shoved up his ass, which makes him explode. And that was self-titled. For a very long time, it was my favorite album out of the trilogy, but over the years, that title has slowly gone to Player Select. Player Select is Starbomb at its absolute peak, moving away from the shock humor and leaning more into the satire aspect. While I think Self-Titled is the more consistently good album, I still prefer Player Select because it has some of the highest of highs in Starbomb's entire discography. And unlike Self-Titled, where almost every song is about smashing, Player Select barely does that at all. Oh wait, never mind.
Princess Peach.
Markiplier voices the Tumblr sexy man announcer guy, and he's easily what makes this a 10 out of 10 Starbomb song. Markiplier is genuinely a great singer, like, for example, that Prison song in A Heist with Markiplier. It seems like he actually really liked and was proud of being a part of Starbomb, and that always makes it kind of better and just also makes me happy. He constantly wore a shirt of the band in his videos at the time. Even in the first part of the FNAF Free Let's Play, he's wearing the shirt, which is kind of a really big deal. At least I think so. Studio Yada did this one too, so counting this, the OKKO Sonic crossover, and the Sonic Mania intro, this would be the third time Studio Yada would do a project involving Sonic. Does that mean that all of this is canon to the Sonic universe? Is Tails the Fox canonically a drug addict? Also, yeah, Dio and Journo pose, but it was already pretty obvious Jake Gans is a JoJo fan. Robots in Need of Disguise is the first song to not be based off a video game, being about Transformers. I used to really hate this song because I thought that it was stupid for a band about video games to make a song about something that's not a video game. Also, I don't care about Transformers. But after a while, the idea kind of grew on me, and now it's pretty high up in my list, so past me was just being a dumbass, I guess. It is getting kind of repetitive talking about how good these music videos and artists are. Like, all of them are so extremely good and talented, there is not really much for me to say, but I wanted to do it one more time because, from what I can tell, this was entirely done by Jet Rabbit, and it baffles me that they only have 600 subs. Like, it's insane that this was only done by one person. Also, their design for Dan is really funny. Anyways, the song is about the Transformers transforming into stuff so they can fight Mettaton or whatever. I don't know, I'm not really familiar with the Transformers lore. Though Starscream's rap is definitely my favorite part.
Hey, I'm Starscream.
What? Okay, I'm gonna say it. Aaron Hansen is a good rapper, and I'm tired of pretending he's not. Seriously, there are a lot of things you can criticize Aaron for, but his rapping skills are not one of them. And Hero of Rhyme is probably the best example of that. I'm not gonna lie, after 10 years and listening to it hundreds of times, it still hasn't gotten old to me. It's my favorite Starbomb song by far. I never really realized this until now, but the fact that Link refuses to use weapons and acts like he misheard Navi, it's probably due to the PTSD he got from constantly getting flashed by the old man. That's great attention to detail. The fact that every Zelda song has an animated music video too is really cool. Every Starbomb album usually has some recurring franchises, like, for example, every album has a Pokemon, Zelda, and the Simple Plot of song. I'm glad they showed so much love to Zelda, but I would have honestly expected them to give Pokemon that treatment, since that just prints money. Okay, so I was just looking for the credits and stuff, and apparently, Temmie Chang worked for Starbomb. Well, more specifically Studio Yada, but that's honestly kinda crazy. She did animation for the best songs from Player Select, or just best Starbomb songs in general. Smash, Hero of Rhyme of course, and also helped on Minecraft is for Everyone, which just makes me ask, why haven't they done an Undertale song yet? Like, come on, man. Player Select was also the album to introduce skits, which are just really unnecessary. I don't dislike them, they're charming in their own right, but I think one of the best things about Starbomb is the incredibly fast pacing, which is something Aaron seemingly agreed with in a Starbomb AMA, so I don't know why they went this direction. Toad Joins the Band is a callback to Luigi's Ballad, which is pretty cool, but for some reason Aaron and Dan now do completely different voices for Mario and Luigi, though they are supposed to be the same Mario and Luigi from Luigi's Ballad because they reference the Toad penis joke.
Oh, his whole body's shaped like a dick, though.
Atari's Mystery Hour is about a murder mystery of a sorts about Pong. It doesn't really make sense, but I guess that's kind of the joke. And that's really it for the skits on this album. The new Poker Rap is the first song of what I've personally coined the term random nonsense song, where the song doesn't really have a plot or a story, and the whole joke is just that they're saying random stuff. It follows up I Choose You to Die, Ash just getting out of the hospital, and Brock telling him the names of all the new wacky Pokemon. In 2022, they also released an EP called Leveled Up, which is them doing a sort of remake of Crashervania, It's Dangerous to Go Alone, and the new Poker Rap. And I kind of prefer the leveled up version over the one on Player Select because it's really funky and has better pacing overall. But yeah, these random nonsense songs are always kind of lower on my list compared to the other ones. I just tend to zone out after constantly getting hit by the same punchline. Speaking of punchline, just like Mega Marital Problems, I don't really have much to add here. The only thing I can really say about it, and another testament to how bad my hearing is that I thought the line "no more peanuts for me" was actually saying "no more penis for me." But with the amount of dick jokes this band makes, can you honestly blame me?
You should seriously consider becoming a screenwriter. What in the actual
Mortal Kombat High is the sequel to Rap Battle Ryu vs. Ken, and I think a mashup between Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat is a nice concept, seeing as Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter do have kind of a history together. However, I do think it could have been handled better. The song follows the overused Starbomb trope of soft character gets put in a graphic or crude situation because of the juxtaposition of Ken being in Mortal Kombat and how crazy and wacky that idea is. The whole song basically being Ken goes to Mortal Kombat High, which is a thing for some reason, and then Johnny Cage comes in and shows Ken around Mortal Kombat High, which basically consists of, hey, look at this character, hey, look at this character, isn't Melina so hot? I mean, yeah, but I do honestly really like the song. I've always loved Mortal Kombat's world and characters, especially Johnny Cage and his stupid little dance, which is probably why I like this so much. Aaron's Johnny Cage impression is just super infectious to me, and the ending part of the song with all the different kinds of fatalities is also really good.
Pac-Man's a bad guy?
Yeah, that basically sums up the entire song. It's not bad, but it doesn't even tick the 1.5 minute mark, making it almost feel like a skit with music added to it. Though I way prefer it over the alternative, which would have been an Assassin's Creed song, and I'm so glad they didn't do that.
We've told that story, that like we were going to try to write an Assassin's Creed song for Starbomb 2, but the best idea we had was that like someone pronounces it Assassin's Creed. And
which, to be fair,
yeah,
is
that's
the best joke.
An amazing song. Amazing basis for a song right there.
Isn't that when we came up with Inky's Lament?
Oh, yeah, I mean, yes.
There are consequences to saying the N-word. Why? How do you know? How do you know?
God of No More is my favorite random nonsense song, seeing as it's more just a collection of cheesy puns based on the names of Greek gods, because Kratos killed all the real gods, and not only gods like Spermies, the god of busting nuts are over, or Poseidon, the god of sushi sauce, or Cherries, the god of chairs and drawers. While the song is about God of War, of course, I just mostly associate it with the Hades games, because to me those games handle Greek mythology way better and the Greek gods are way more entertaining, and I just like Hades more than God of War. Hold on, Poseidon?
Oh, I'm playing some Minecraft, so I wanted to grab a Soylent.
Somehow they got Notch Notch Smell My Crotch. It's a cameo in this song, and the irony of the song being called Minecraft is for Everyone is just off the charts. It would have been really stupid for them to not make a song about Minecraft, you know, it being around the golden age of Minecraft and the biggest thing in the world and all. Steve tries to befriend the creeper and then, oh my god, can you two fuck off? DSP hates this song.
Hideo Kojima isn't his master.
Ending off Player Select, the simple plot of Metal Gear Solid really brings everything full circle, seeing as none of this would probably exist if it wasn't for Metal Gear Awesome. So thank you, Snake. It's a sequel to the simple plot of Final Fantasy VII, of course, and my second favorite Starbomb song of all time. Again, this is one of those Starbomb songs I don't really have that much to comment on without me going in circles. I just really love it for the same reason I love Crashervania, that being the character dynamic. In the Final Fantasy VII one, the host was pretty much an afterthought, but here the dynamic of frustrated host and oblivious guest really gets started, which is probably the most iconic thing about the Simple Plot of series. Then 5 years after Player Select, on April 19th, 2019, they released their third studio album, The Triforce. I love the Triforce, but it's not really as good as the first two albums, which I think is mainly because Brian stopped doing the instrumentals, probably because he was too busy working on the at the time latest Korn album, now instead being done by Canadian synth rock band Tupperware Remix Party, which really took away from the whole video gamey feel that first two albums had. The first song on the album is Aaron and Dan singing about how hard Dark Souls is and how painful and frustrating the game is to play. Maybe I'm just kind of a snowflake, and it's probably also because it kind of scares me, but I just don't find seizures very funny, especially in a song where you're constantly talking about dying, so that line always kind of takes me out of it. The song overall is just meh. Aaron is singing in this very high-pitched, obnoxious tone, and some of the lines are just really graphic and disturbing for no reason. They could have made it a song about the Onion Man, but that's in hindsight.
I am Big Fire of Katarina, and you shall feel my wrath!
A Boy in His Boat is a Wind Waker song and the worst random nonsense song to have ever nonsensed. At least with a random nonsense song like the new Poker Rap, the nonsense is on topic and has somewhat of a point. It using silly random names to point fun at how stupid Pokemon names have gotten, so even though there is no real story or plot, you can explain what the idea behind it is. Here, it's about that Wind Waker has a lot of items, and so the King of Red Alliance forces Link, not Toon Link by the way, because Aaron uses the exact same Link voice and references the previous Zelda songs, to take a lot of items like a giant used cube to build a small cruise ship, a parent signature for a Disneyland school trip. The premise doesn't even make sense because Wind Waker doesn't even have that many items really. If you were gonna do a random nonsense song about Zelda, wouldn't Majora's Mask make the most sense? Seeing how many different masks there are, and it would be about putting on the masks of all kinds of wacky characters and turning into them. Like putting on the Pro Jared mask, which would make you cheat on your wife, putting on the completionist mask, which would make you mislead your fans and not donate charity money, or putting on the Aaron Hansen mask, which would make you say the N-word. People consider this to be one of the best songs on the Triforce, if not one of the best Starbomb songs in general, and I definitely used to like it. The instrumentals are really good, and Wind Waker is probably my second favorite Zelda game. Despite that, it just doesn't really hold up and is almost always an instant skip for me. Filling in the Name Of is a reference to and is generally inspired by Killing in the Name by Rage Against the Machine. I don't know how that went over my head for so long because I really like Rage and the title's literally just replacing the first letter. One thing that does really impress me is that they didn't make this song a sexual innuendo. I know it must have been really hard. Get it? Okay, I'll stop. For a Starbomb song, it's actually got somewhat of a profound plot about people only using you for that one thing and not really caring about you as a person. Long Piece gets used by everyone to complete Tetrises, which ends up giving him an identity crisis. Eventually going to therapy, with the song ironically ending by the fact that the therapist wants to use him too. Greg Zilla animated this one, who is also responsible for the Everybody Shut Up music video, so thanks for that. Just like Filling in the Name Of was inspired by Rage Against the Machine, this song was inspired by Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, more specifically being a parody of Nothing But a G Thing. It's pretty alright, but I find the parody aspect to be way more distracting than it was on Filling in the Name Of. And I do think it takes away from the originality of the album a bit, because at some point it just gets on the same level as an Aaron Fraser Nash song.
Somebody once told.
There are also two skits on this album. One is just Aaron doing a freestyle about being a hardcore gamer, and the other one being a literal advertisement for their at the time upcoming game Dream Daddy. It's basically like if I would do a 40-second long segment where I would tell you to like and subscribe, which, you know, would be cool if you did, but yeah, that would make for a horrible skit. The song Donkey Kong Jr. is about how Donkey Kong Jr. is mentally challenged, and that's the whole joke.
Wow, that's so freaking funny, dude.
I'm Sora from Kingdom Hearts.
No! Being teased at the end of the Simple Plot of Metal Gear Solid, it was basically confirmed that the next one was going to be about Kingdom Hearts, which is a perfect pick to end the Simple Plot of trilogy, seeing as it's the most convoluted gaming series probably ever. Though I'm not sure who voices Sora, because he has this distinct, raspy voice that doesn't sound like Aaron at all. Looking it up online, the only name I could find was Brian Walters, but that name isn't credited in the CD booklet. But to be fair, the CD booklet also has some manufacturing issues, seeing as Brian's last name is misspelled everywhere. So maybe he is supposed to be there, but yeah, manufacturing issues, I don't know. Out of all these songs, this one definitely aged the worst in my opinion, because like, I'm sorry, but who honestly still gives a fuck about Overwatch? They clearly did this because the game was really popular at the time and it was like the biggest game of 2016. Same thing applies to Minecraft is for Everyone. I guess they also did that based on Minecraft's popularity, but that song is peak and Minecraft will forever be a timeless classic. Apparently this is also heavily inspired by the Beastie Boys, but I don't listen to them, so I wouldn't know. Making this the third song on the album to be inspired / a parody of a big artist or band, which I think is way too much honestly and just unoriginal at this point. Aaron sounds the same here as on the Dark Souls song, that being the same annoying screeching tone that gets old really fast, though Kirby and Dreamland is still way worse. While I'm usually not the biggest fan of the Pokemon songs, a wild guitar solo of Pierce just absolutely slaps. Ash is not an abuser or gets shot in his balls. He and Pikachu are having a Pokemon battle, but instead of Pikachu actually fighting his opponent, he shreds guitar and has a jam off. Like I said, the Triforce is not as good as self-titled and player select, but what I mean by that is that it's really inconsistent in terms of quality. This album has some really high highs and the lowest of lows. I think the first half of the album has some absolute stinkers on it, but aside from one song, the second half is just so amazing and even outshines self-titled and player select in some aspects. And I think it's important to clarify, especially for later, that I don't think, oh, it doesn't sound video gamey, therefore this song is bad or isn't Starbomb. While the synthy 8-bit instrumentals are what makes Starbomb Starbomb to me, the Triforce really shows that Starbomb can really work and be great without it. I mean, hell, this is basically a rock album for the most part. Because what also makes Starbomb Starbomb is how Aaron and Dan play off each other. The way they play a specific video game character, Dan's backing vocals, the fast pacing, and just the overall passion behind it. And as long as that, or most of that's still here, then it's fundamentally Starbomb. Vegeta's Serenade is the best song on the Triforce. Vegeta, the blunt and stoic alpha male, has to sing a love song for his wife Bulma, and out of all Starbomb songs, this one definitely feels the most artistic, if that's the right word. The song is just really earnest, and while Aaron's vocal performance is all over the place on this album, his singing here is so incredibly good that at times you can hardly tell it's even him singing. It really sounds like he's pouring his heart out, and that also makes this the funniest Starbomb song to me, ironically, because a lot of Starbomb basically comes down to violating expectations. So you're expecting the subversion to come and for them to turn it into a dick joke or something, only to be met with complete sincerity. So in a way, they're subverting your expectations by not subverting your expectations. This song sucks always and still kind of is really bittersweet to me. Aaron and Dan spitball stupid song ideas. There even being a few callbacks like that Assassin's Creed song that was supposed to be on Player Select. And something about this song just captures the band really well. It's kind of a very meta commentary on the band itself, pointing out a lot of the formulas and tropes they use, making fun of themselves but more in a self-aware way rather than self-rejecting. For a very long time, this was the final song ever, with them saying they would never do another album after Triforce, and I think this is the best send-off they could have given Starbomb. Actually, now that I listen to it again, one of these stupid spitball ideas kind of remind me of something.
Sonic Boom! Where's the joke? That is the joke! Oh, damn! Making a selection from 5 is okay. Choosing from 3 is also a safe move. But picking anything from a group of 4 practically invites disaster!
No. I don't even know how to start this, man, because it's just so... I should probably give some context. When I said that I was Starbomb's #1 meat writer or whatever at the start of this video, I genuinely meant it. In 2023 and 2024, I was listening to them religiously, and all I wanted was a new album. There was a rumor going around that they were planning on making a new one, and I would check their Twitter on the daily or almost every day for months. And when they posted this video, I was so incredibly hyped. Oh damn, it's a new Starbomb! I think I was generally the first person or one of the first few people to see this tweet. I was here for that shit, constantly thinking about which games or franchises they would cover, which game they would choose for the simple plot of. I saw a few people online say Danganronpa, and Yeah, that game would definitely make sense to do. And it seemed pretty likely seeing as Aaron and Dan did like 200 episodes, they're all 30 minutes to an hour each. The games I think would have been cool to see him cover are Undertale, of course, Tomodachi Life, which I think would have made a pretty good random nonsense song for obvious reasons, Ace Attorney, Resident Evil
Bingo.
4. I can go on forever, the possibilities are literally endless. Pan to 5 months later and the official Twitter account tweets, "So soon." 3 days later, they released the single Pokemon Smasher Pass as a preview of the album. I didn't really like it, but it's another random nonsense song, and besides a while the guitar solo appears, the Pokemon songs were never really my favorite, so I shrugged it off. My hype for the full song list was still really strong, and after a couple of days it came online, and it was such a letdown. But before I get into it, I should probably mention the few things that are good surrounding this album. Of course, all the music videos are amazing. I haven't mentioned Shuchiru yet, but he's done a lot of amazing work on Starbomb. Animating the A Boy in His Boat music video, having a part in both the simple plot of Final Fantasy VII and Glass Joe's Title Fight fan collab, and now doing the Pokemon Smasher Pass and Kiss the Elden Ring music video. Not really counting Studio Yada because that's a studio and not a person, Shuchiru has done the most animation for Starbomb out of anyone. I still think I'm the biggest Starbomb fan in terms of how much I've listened to them, but in terms of all the work and dedication and blood, sweat, and tears Shuchiru has put into Starbomb, he's definitely more deserving of that title. Shigla animated the one for Nintendo's Online's greatest announcement. I would recommend checking out his How I Animated a Starbomb music video. It's a really fun watch, and he really went above and beyond to make an incredible music video, despite the fact that the song itself is a war crime. The Sonic one was done by Anthony Manley, who also did the Regretsroid music video. And Spadespear did the one for Krobus is Hot, which sets itself apart from all the other Starbomb music videos by using mostly in-game footage and editing that to make it fit the song. Spoiler alert, Krobus is Hot is the only song I like on this album. Also, the album cover by Crispy Boat is peak. Notice how almost none of that had to do with the actual music, because the only good things about this album are things that aren't actually the album itself. I haven't really mentioned them yet, but every Starbomb album usually has an intro and outro, and I really love these. You could view them as skits, but they don't mess up the fast pacing of the album and really just do a good job at opening and closing it. Boom kind of has an intro, but also not really. Aw damn, it's a new Starbomb. This is the one they teased in that one tweet. As I said, when I first heard a snippet of this intro on their Twitter, I was so extremely hyped, but when I heard the full version, I've never frowned so quickly in my life. It's such a massive bummer of an intro, talking about that they're talentless, that Starbomb sucks and is a stupid band, and constantly repeating how horrible of an idea this was. Wow, that really gives me a lot of confidence in this album. I mean, which great album doesn't start off with shitting on itself in the first few seconds? It's just this extremely overdone self-deprecating humor. Haha, Starbomb sucks, doesn't it? It's so jarring when you look at how sincere and passionate they were in their earlier intros. Going from
a holy shit amazing new band
to Starbomb sucks really just says it all. I already mentioned Pokemon Smasher Pass, but oh my god. Nintendo's Online greatest announcement. This is what brought me to make this video, because I learned something about this song that has left me in sheer disbelief to this day. I hinted at this earlier, but Starbomb Boom Rise of Lyrics sounds absolutely nothing like a video game parody album, and is more of an Aaron and Dan don't give a shit-a-thon special. Everything I said about what makes Starbomb so great, specifically talking to instrumentals, absolutely none of that is here. This was pretty noticeable to me when listening to the album, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it until one day, YouTube showed me this ad. To realize that the band I loved so much, that I held so near and dear to my heart, is now on the same level as a fucking Doritos advertisement, I just didn't know what to say. A literal Doritos advertisement. A literal Doritos advertisement. But it all really made sense. The reason why this sounded so off, why it didn't sound like a Starbomb album, is because it literally isn't. Aaron, Dan, Brian, whosever horrible idea this was, decided to use least beats. That's why this album sounds like some Audio Jungle SoundCloud garbage. And it's not just Nintendo's Online's greatest announcement, it's almost all of these, and it sounds so horrible. Instead of the instrumentals fitting the lyrics, it's the lyrics fitting the instrumentals, which is not a good thing. Making it sound like Aaron is at all times rushing or not rushing at all to not sound out of sync. And it's not just the instrumentals, it's everything. Everything that makes Starbomb Starbomb is in here. The synergy slash chemistry between Aaron and Dan, the voices. I mean, they sing every song in the same super monotone voice, and they don't even play any characters. Just like Kirby and Dreamland, their worst song on the original album trilogy was a complete self-insert about Aaron and Dan smashing Kirby. Every song on this album is like that. Though to be fair, in some of the games they chose to do here, you literally are the main character. Like in Stardew Valley and Elden Ring, you play as your own OC. Though that's just more of a cope, because there are so many characters in the world of Elden Ring and Stardew Valley that you can work with. But moving on from this failed abortion of a song, Brian pitches ideas. Brian isn't supposed to talk. He did a cameo as the cast of Marganoid in The Simple Plot of Kingdom Hearts, and also as the therapist in Filling in the Name of, I think. But seeing as we've never heard his voice before, you wouldn't even know it's him. While on this album he constantly gets referred to by name, the skit is literally called Brian Pitches Ideas. And Jesus Christ, almost 2 minutes for a skit? Aaron, what was that you said again? Something about long periods of lameness and bloating? Also, this part in Shiglu's making of video.
I was originally going to have this as the cover art for the song, but it got rejected since Ninja Brian apparently canonically never closes his eyes.
Yeah, well, Brian also isn't canonically supposed to talk, so kind of a double standard, don't you think, Aaron? Also, Brian literally closes his eyes in the music video, so again, what are you talking about, Aaron? Kiss the Elden Ring is about smashing pots. No, that's not what I meant. Wow, totally haven't done that before. Seems like all the constraint they had just vanished into thin air. The Mario Kart song is a parody of Nugget by Cake, which I'd never heard of them before, but it's honestly kind of disrespectful to even consider it a parody because that song is infinitely better than this. And it explains why this is one of the few songs that doesn't sound like some Audio Jungle SoundCloud least beat bullshit. They carried my least favorite thing about the Triforce over to this, which is the inspired songs. So they're either mimicking big artists or not even making the music themselves. Wow, there definitely was a lot of effort put into this. It's not even a Mario Kart song. It's about a NASCAR driver who constantly gets assaulted by Mario Kart items, and that's the only connection. There's this insufferable announcer who's constantly going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And the NASCAR driver is constantly yelling, "This isn't happening, oh my god, oh my god." Both of them being voiced by Aaron, mind you. Dan couldn't even be bothered to voice a few lines. I mean, I don't blame him, but isn't this his band as well? There wasn't a single song on the first 3 albums where only Aaron or only Dan sang. Like, isn't the whole dynamic of Starbomb that Aaron does the rapping and Dan does the singing? I've been thinking, and there's really only one explanation I can come up with to why things ended up the way they did. Okay, to clarify, I don't actually think Aaron has CTE for the most part, but I do think his involvement in this is related to the quality of the album. Aaron, for some reason, was a part of iDubbbz's horrible boxing event that has its own whole string of controversy, which Aaron was a part of, that I can't and don't even want to get into. Like, I don't know what's worse, being associated with Pro Jared or being associated with iDubbbz. He would be fighting Harley Mornstein from Epic Mealtime, which I shouldn't even have to explain how horrible of an idea that is. Harley having a 62-pound advantage over him, while also being 4 inches taller and clearly having a way larger frame than Aaron. It was basically equivalent to Hydrogen Bomb versus a coughing baby.
You little bastard.
If Aaron was gonna fight anyone, why not someone like his buddy James? In terms of having a fair and safe fight, and especially from a content perspective, that would have made so much sense. I'm not blaming Aaron or Harley for this, of course. They were just trying to put on a good show, and we all know who did the matchups. But even the same thing applies to him. He also got the shit kicked out of him by an opponent that was way out of his league in terms of muscle mass and fitness. And iDubbbz did actually get CTE, so that's why I mention it. But what I'm actually trying to say is that Aaron was way too busy with Creator Clash to actually work on Starbomb. As much as it hurts to admit, compared to running Game Grumps and his touring company and also having to train for this event and eventually becoming its spokesperson, Starbomb was probably not his priority. And this next thing is more of a theory, but I also think Dan just doesn't want to be associated with Starbomb anymore. He's barely in any of the songs on this album, and when he is, it's usually just a throwaway line or two. Also, another weird thing I noticed is that in his cameo intro video, there's only one specific band he doesn't mention.
In a band called Ninja Sex Party, on a band called Shadow Academy, and another one called Sky Hill, and a show called Game Grumps. And
aren't you forgetting one, Dan? So I think it comes down to Aaron wanted to make a quick buck, and Dan didn't give a fuck. The biggest dick in Hyrule is obviously a Zelda song, and it's just literally nothing. Not even as in a random nonsense song where there's no plot, but at least there's a central idea. This song is about nothing. There are a few Breath of the Wild buzzwords thrown in there, but I can't for the life of me explain what this song is about. And again, that incoherency is because of the least beats. I know how it can kind of seem like I'm making least beats and anyone who uses them out to be the spawn of Satan or something, but that's not what I think at all. Least beats get used a lot in music, specifically rap, so why is it such a problem here? Well, because it's the antithesis of what Starbomb objectively is. Yes, the high energy, fast-paced, loud, obnoxious, but in a charming way band is now making low energy, monotone lo-fi music. That's like if Big Time Rush would become a heavy metal band. The two are complete polar opposites. And yeah, the rushing. In this song, and Kiss the Elden Ring specifically, you can hear Aaron talk really quickly or hear him completely stretch out his sentences to fit within the rhythm, which makes it really hard to follow what he's even saying. Probably because he isn't saying anything and it's all just a collection of unrelated sentences so that he doesn't sound completely offbeat. Like, just put on Luigi's Ballad or something and then play this song and see how they are completely nothing alike. Last thing, but something I found interesting is that the word cuck gets used multiple times on this song, and in other songs as well, which is obviously Aaron taking subliminal shots at a certain business partner of his. Krobus is Hot is the only one on this album that's actually, you know, a Starbomb song, which I guess is a lot to ask for on a Starbomb album. I don't know if they just found a really fitting least beat. It seems unlikely to me that they would actually try for this, seeing as the other ones they didn't. But I looked everywhere and I couldn't find anything, so they must have made it themselves then. But that just pisses me off even more that this song is good, because it clearly shows that they could have made the album good if they tried. They just didn't want to. This song is about, you guessed it, sex. But in Stardew Valley, you can actually date Krobus, so that is lore accurate. I know how it can come over as inconsistent. Yeah, singing about sex actually makes sense in this song, but the other ones are bad. But in Kirby and Dreamland or Kiss the Elden Ring, it's completely unrelated to anything and just kind of comes across as perverted. While here it's more like commenting on the game and saying, hey, isn't it kind of weird you can date this little shadow creature? So it's really just dependent on the context. Again, Dan isn't in this one. He was too busy, I just think he didn't want to, I guess. Instead, Brian is here and he isn't supposed to talk. Some of the things they choose to make songs out of here are so incredibly lame. Like a song about Joy-Con drift in 2024. A song about Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune. This is like making a song about Power Wash Simulator, but at least Power Wash Simulator is an actual video game.
Alright, I'd like to solve the puzzle.
I hate all these songs except Krobus is Hot, but to be a little gracious, Sonic's Last Ring is probably the one I hate the least out of all the other songs initially, even though it still sucks. Sonic has a wedding with Amy, so they need to invite people to the wedding. So they name a lot of obscure Sonic characters and also random people like Barack Obama. So still kind of a random nonsense song. Okay, I'm kind of actually gonna get a little bit pissed here, because this is such... What is this, man? That feels incredible. It's something like this that makes me think that they wanted to make it as horrible as they possibly could, just out of spite. And then this guy has the gall to say, we got some bangers on this project.
We got some bangers on this project.
It's a 1 minute long skit of them moaning. How the fuck could you think this was a good idea? Like, I know I just said I don't think Aaron has CTE, but I'm starting to reconsider. Like, as much as people rail on Starbomb for its immature humor, this is a whole new level. And it's not even a matter of target demographic, because even an embryo wouldn't find this funny. It's kind of insulting. Like, it feels like they're taking a piss in your ears. And I keep saying they, but come on, man, it's Aaron. Dan didn't want to be a part of this. I think that's pretty obvious. Brian is there, but I don't know how much his involvement is. But come on, Aaron, like, what the heck, dude?
I love Starbomb, but holy fuck was that awkward to listen to.
Falling Diagonally is a song about Q-Berts, which, you know, I can at least respect that it's actually a song about a video game and not Wheel of Fortune. But it's sung by Brian, so F tier. Again, I love Brian Welch. I'm just Going off the lore they established, the same lore they used to refuse Shigeru's thumbnail. We are at the final song and it's the simple plot of Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is not really deserving of a simple plot of song, because it's not really known for having a very complicated plot like the ones that came before. It's more just a game with a lot of symbolism and ambiguity, but that's not even the main issue with the song. The main issue is that they chose the worst possible least B to put behind this song. Being all super happy-go-lucky in a song about Silent Hill 2. Spoiler alert, a game about a guy who's suffering from extreme guilt and trauma and slowly comes to term or doesn't come to term with the fact that he killed his wife. And that was Starbomb Boom Rise of Lyrics. Starbomb means a lot to me, and based on how they treated this album, probably even more than it does to Aaron, Dan, and Brian. To see this passion project turn into nothing more than a soulless revenue stream to add on top of the Aaron Hansen, Game Grumps empire. I mean, I've already said this 100 times, but it just sucks. Because despite all of this, I still do love Starbomb. I still listen to the original trilogy, I still wear that goofy ass beanie, and that's what makes this so frustrating and just sad in hindsight. Starbomb already had as good of a send-off as it could get. And again, it's not like it couldn't have worked or that video game parody songs are just a thing of the past. They kept talking about how they were out of ideas, but I don't know how uncreative you have to be for that to be the case when you have literally endless material to go off of. But what it all comes down to really is that their hearts weren't in it. Aaron's brain probably also wasn't, and most importantly, their dicks weren't in it. But wow, did this video take a long time to make, so yeah. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe and stuff, and here's my tier list of all the Starbomb songs. Okay, bye bye.
Nice, nice! Very nice, Shiza-chan!